She took them to court to try to get reinstated. Here's our health correspondent, Matthew Hill.
Daphne Havercroft has been campaigning for greater transparency in the NHS for years. 9 years ago, she first raised questions that helped unearth the crisis in pathology and biopsy screening. Questions were raised that 26 cancer patients had been misdiagnosed. Then an independent inquiry found 3 patients came to harm because of serious errors. But Mrs. Havercroft wasn't happy with that inquiry because she said it failed to look at the actions of senior board members. She wanted to know what they did when they first knew about it.
Instead of invoking their own whistleblowing policy, which protected me as a member, they took steps to remove me as a member through a process that breached their own constitution.
She used the Freedom of Information Act to ask about these concerns, but was refused. The hospital wrote back saying they found her approach vexatious, and that's why they banned her from being a member. The trust also claimed those requests had cost £720,000. But a judge in the small claims court has found that this figure is inaccurate and should be disregarded.
That sequence of events casts a very shady light on proceedings, and particularly since this was something that was to do with patient safety and patient welfare, it's very, very disappointing to find that a trust should A, react in this way, but B, to find that a judge has found them of being inaccurate in making claims to try and get this person out of their hair, who's simply asking questions which we would like to have thought would have been answered in full to her satisfaction in the first place.
No one from the hospital was available for an interview, but in a statement they say that Mrs. Havercroft was excluded as a member because she acted in a manner that was contrary to the interests of the trust. They say that as she has not appealed against this decision and she's dropped her case against them, that she will remain excluded as a member. And they say, "We uphold the right of patients and the public to question how NHS services are run, and we'll always be open in responding to reasonable questions." Yesterday, Mrs. Havercroft went to a meeting for people interested in becoming a hospital governor, something she can't be while this ban remains in place. But she did manage to secure a meeting with the chairman of the trust, John Savage. John, do you want to say anything about why you've banned Daphne Havercroft from being a critical friend? No? You'd rather not? Okay.
Well, I'd like to respond to that because that's got things in the wrong order.
Please respond to it. Matthew Hill, BBC Points West, Bristol.
A 91-year-old Wiltshire man thinks he may have the world's longest-lasting artificial hips. Norman Sharp was the first person to undergo a hip operation under the newly formed NHS back in December 1948. Our reporter Fiona Lambden has been to meet him.
When he was just 5 years old, Norman Sharp had a serious ear infection, which left him with septic arthritis. He couldn't walk and was in constant pain.
They asked